Hey, and welcome back to Wild Mythology, the channel where we discover the mysteries of myth, folklore, and legends. As always, I welcome you to the channel with bread and salt. Today, we'll be describing over 30 mythical creatures and monsters from Filipino mythology. Creatures that separate their upper half from their lower half. Creatures that try to eat the sun and the moon, and even a creature that turns children into coconuts. So sit back and relax and get ready for some wild mythology. Starting off our list is the Bakunawa, one of the most famous creatures in Filipino mythology. The Bakunawa is described as a giant dragon or winged sea serpent, or even sometimes as a giant fish creature. Either way, the Bakunawa is said to be the cause of all eclipses. Legend says that the supreme creator god, Batala, created 7 moons so that the mortals on Earth would have an illuminating moon for every night of the week. This made the humans happy as they could use the moons to know exactly when to plant and harvest their crops. But unfortunately, their happiness came to an end when the Bakunawa saw the beautiful moons. Entranced by their pleasant glow, the Bakunawa rose from its home in the sea and began to swallow the moons one by one. Watching as the 7th and final moon was swallowed, the humans cried out in pain and sorrow. Furious with the creature, the creator god quickly advised the mortals on how to stop the Bakunawa. So the humans rushed outside their homes with rocks, drums, and bellowing voices, and they began to make as much noise as possible. Startled by all the noise, the Bakunawa spit out the 7th moon and fled back into the sea. Now, whenever a lunar eclipse happens, the people know that it is the Bakunawa trying once again to eat the last sacred moon. So the people must rush outside, banging noisy objects and yelling, "Return our moon." In other legends, it is suggested that the Bakunawa also hunts the sun, and that during solar eclipses, people will also come out of their homes and make loud noises to scare away the creature. While the Bakunawa is the most famous of the moon and sun eaters in Filipino mythology, there are 4 others that deserve mentioning, each that can be scared away with loud noises. The first is Tambanokano, a giant crab who is one of the children of the sun and moon. The crab is so big that he causes the tides to come in and go out whenever he moves. He doesn't get along with his moon mother, and so tries to swallow the moon when he is angry with her. The second moon eater is Minokawa, a giant bird whose wings black out the sky. It's described as having legs and a beak made of steel, mirror-like eyes, a mouth as big as an island, and wings that are as sharp as swords. The third creature is Tambanakaua, a giant moon eater that resembles either a tarantula or a scorpion. It is said that if the creature should ever succeed in devouring the moon, eternal darkness will fall upon the world. Final moon eater is Arimaonga, a great lion who sometimes feels playful and decides to try to swallow the moon. The Aswang is perhaps the most famous and most evil creature in all Filipino mythology. With that being said, it is also the most complicated to explain. Every region of the Philippines has different descriptions and behaviors of the Aswang, resulting in dozens of interpretations. Dr. Maximo Ramos, a professor and writer known as the Dean of Philippine Mythology, categorized the numerous Aswang legends into 5 separate classifications. First classification is the ghoul aspect of the Aswang, which describes the creature as a corpse devourer with sharp curved claws, pointed fangs, and breath that can be smelled from hundreds of feet away. They usually live in trees near cemeteries, but some are known to appear as human and live amongst communities. The ghoul aspect is said to be able to hear the dying breath of a human from miles away and will feel a pull towards the dead body. Once it reaches the location, the Aswang will devour the corpse and any of the nearby mourners. The second classification is the bloodsucker aspect. These types of Aswang are usually females who by day pretend to be beautiful women, but by night are blood-sucking creatures who use their extremely long, hollowed tongue to suck out the blood from their victims. In most cases, the bloodsucker Aswang will use her beauty to tempt a man into marrying her. Then, each night while he sleeps, the Aswang will suck the blood from her husband until eventually he withers away and dies. The third classification of Aswang is the Viscera Sucker, a creature that, like the vampire aspect, has a long hollowed tongue. But instead of sucking blood, the Viscera Sucker sucks out and eats internal organs, fetuses, and the phlegm of the sick. Also like the vampire aspect, this class of Aswang usually takes the form of a beautiful woman during the day. But at night, the Viscera Sucker Aswang will find a hidden place to hide its lower body, and then separate its upper body from the waist up, grow wings, and fly out into the night to find its victims. The fourth classification is the Werebeast aspect. This aspect of Aswang might appear as a normal man or woman during the day, but by night they are said to take the form of a large, tailless black dog, pig, or horse and kill people that cross their path, especially pregnant women. The final classification of Aswang is the Witch aspect. The Witch aspect usually takes the form of a woman, but a few have been known to be men. It's said that one can identify a witch Aswang by looking in their eyes, where you'll see your reflection upside down in their pupil. They are said to be vindictive and cause curses and illness to people who cross them even the tiniest bit. So as you can see, the Aswang is very difficult to explain because it represents an umbrella term for all these variations. And while there are many types of Aswang, I thought we could cover some general ways for one to become one of these creatures. The most common way is hereditary, while other methods involve being bitten, eating or drinking an Aswang's saliva, or even going through a ritual where one puts 2 fertilized eggs under their armpits in a cemetery on the night of Good Friday. That night, there must also be a full moon, and the person must stare at the moon without blinking. After saying secret words 3 times, the eggs under the person's armpits will be absorbed into their body, and thus they will become an Aswang. The most famous way, though, to become an Aswang is by transfer. Aswangs are said to have a small black chick living within them. When they're about to die, they transfer this black chick from mouth-to-mouth contact, usually with a family member, but sometimes with some innocent passerby. Thus, a new Aswang is born, while the old one finally dies. Another popular and well-known creature from Filipino mythology is the Tikbalang, a tall, red-eyed creature that has the upper body and arms of a man, but the lower body and head of a horse. Today in popular culture, Tikbalangs are shown as having very muscular physiques, but traditionally, Tikbalangs are described to be skinny and bony creatures, with limbs so long that when a Tikbalang sits down, its knees will reach above its head. It's said that Tikbalangs live in the forest regions of the Philippines, and are sometimes thought to be guardians or protector spirits of the trees. They're also known to be tricksters and will lead travelers astray by using their ability to transform. Tikbalangs have the ability to take any shape, including a family member of those they wish to trick. In legend, a transformed Tikbalang will lead a traveler off the path for miles, only then to suddenly make them reappear where they started, and then lead them off in a different direction. This loop will keep happening again and again until the traveler dies of exhaustion. Other than transforming, Tikbalangs can turn invisible at will and seem to be able to cause sickness to their victims for however long they desire. If one ever finds themselves caught in a Tikbalang's trick, one method to break out of the spell is to turn your clothes inside out. This will confuse the Tikbalang, allowing for a quick escape. A sure way to know if a Tikbalang is nearby is the presence of rain in the middle of a sunny day. This is a sign that 2 Tikbalangs are in the process of getting married. According to legend, there is a way to tame a Tikbalang, but only the most brave try to. All Tikbalangs have a great mane of hair coming out of the back of their head, and right in the middle of that mane is a great spine. By retrieving this spine, one can control the Tikbalang. An In order to do so though, one would have to surprise the Tikbalang by leaping on its back. They must then hold on for dear life until the Tikbalang exhausts itself, and then take the spine from the tired creature. They let go before that though, the rider will be killed. But if they succeed, the Tikbalang will give them wishes or serve that person for life. The Batibat is a tree-dwelling female creature that hates when people sleep near her tree. In most legends, a Batibat's tree is cut down and used to build a home. The Batibat will then migrate into the wood used to build the home, and then terrify all those that sleep nearby. When someone falls asleep, the Batibat will appear out of her tree or the wood in her true form. A Batibat's true appearance takes the shape of a huge, obese woman, bigger than even the burliest of men. Batibat will then sit on her sleeping victim's chest and invade their dreams by inducing nightmares. The victim then slowly suffocates to death from the weight as they suffer a horrifying nightmare. Supposedly, the Batibat is invisible to all except to the one she sits on. Also, the only known way to escape from a Batibat is for the victim to realize what is happening and then either try to move their big toe or bite their thumb. If either is accomplished, the victim will suddenly wake up from their nightmare and the Batibat will be gone. Perhaps the most fearsome and terrifying creature in all Filipino mythology is the Manananggal, one of the creatures that falls under the viscera sucker classification of Aswang. By day, the Manananggal appears as an attractive woman who sometimes even marries. But when night falls, the Manananggal will open her window or walk outside and perform a ritual. She'll dip her hands into an ointment made of oils and chicken droppings and cover her waist with the substance while muttering a chant that goes like this. Sili, Sili, there is no God at night, over trees, under houses. After doing all this, a transformation takes place. Her body above her waist separates itself from its lower half. Great bat-like wings grow out of her back. Her tongue elongates, and her beautiful appearance becomes hideous. Once making sure that her lower half is safe, she flies into the night looking to hunt. The Manananggal's favorite prey is pregnant women or newlywed couples. Once finding its prey, the Manananggal will rest on top of their prey's roof or crawl under their home. Then, using their elongated tongue, the Manananggal will stretch it down through a window or up through the floorboards and into one of its victim's orifices. The Manananggal will then suck its prey's internal organs through its hollowed-out tongue, thus killing its prey. In the case of pregnant women, the Manananggal will suck out the fetus, leaving the mother alive but in terrible grief. After the Manananggal is done hunting for the night, it will quickly return to reattach to its lower half. The terrifying creature must do this because it will instantly die if it's not reattached by sunrise. The lower half of a Manananggal is also its biggest weakness. If one is able to find the lower half, it can prevent the upper half from reattaching by sprinkling a mixture of vinegar, salt, and ashes on top of it. This will cause the Manananggal unable to return to its human form and die at sunrise. If the lower body cannot be found, it is said that the Manananggal has a sweet spot somewhere on its back and can be killed if one stabs the exact spot with a bamboo spear. Kapre is a tree spirit or tree giant creature that is pretty well known in the Philippines. A kapre is described as a 7 to 10 foot tall creature with a strong body odor, black skin, and its only piece of clothing, which is a bahag loincloth. They're said to make their homes in the largest of trees and can often be found sitting at the trunk or on the branches of that tree smoking a cigar or tobacco pipe that never seems to burn out. Other descriptions make the Kapre to be creatures made of wood and vegetation, but perhaps that's a modern description. The Kapre have the ability to make themselves invisible to humans, but those that a Kapre befriends can always see them. Other legends suggest that they have the ability to change their size from the tallest of trees to the smallest of weeds. The Kapre are said to mostly be observers and like to watch humans from their tree while smoking their cigars. Sometimes they'll pull pranks on humans by briefly showing their form and then disappearing. The only time they truly become hostile is if anything happens to their home tree, or if they're deeply insulted. A sign that a Kapre is nearby is smoke coming from the top of a tree, and an abundance of fireflies, which are said to be the embers of a Kapre's cigar. Duwende is an umbrella term to describe all the creatures or spirits of the fields, hills, and ground. They are often described as creatures that are 2 feet tall and look like ugly old men, with large facial features. Most of the Duwende make their homes in ant or termite mounds, thus the term Nuno Sapunso, meaning the old grandfather of the termite mound. Most Duwende are invisible to the human eye, and all of them are very easily slighted. That's why it's important not to walk over or destroy a termite mound, as it might be the home of a Duwende. In fact, when one passes close to a mound, they must say tabi tabi po, meaning excuse me. If someone doesn't say that, they will possibly slight a Duwende. A slighted Duwende can cause humans to have fevers, rashes, diseases, and even sudden death. There are even Duwende that feel they own their mound and the land around it. Any that wish to build something or farm the land must ask permission and give offerings first, or else they will be cursed by the Duwende. Duwende are also known to sneak inside people's homes and listen to their conversations. If the people are speaking ill of the Duwende, or even accidentally sweep some dust into its eyes with a broom, the Duwende will become slighted and curse the whole household, or maybe even kidnap one of the female family members they are attracted to. While the Duwende can be easily slighted, they can also be very good friends. Under their termite mounds, the Duwende are said to keep gold and precious gems. They will give these treasures to those humans they like. Well, as long as they don't accidentally slight the Duwende. The Tiyanak are the spirits of babies whose mothers died before they could give birth. Thus the Tiyanak are born in the ground. While the Tiyanak will take the form of an innocent baby in order to trick its prey, its true form is actually terrifying. When the Tiyanak reveals its true form, it looks like an old man with wrinkled skin, large eyes, a flat nose, a beard sometimes, and sharp fangs and claws. A Tiyanak's left leg will also always be bigger than its right, which is a sure tale sign of one. The Tiyanak's main hunting method is to imitate a newborn's cry, which will draw in its prey. Some Tiyanak are tricksters and will try to lead people astray, but a malicious Tiyanak, once picked up, will reveal its true form and start slashing and biting. If its prey tries to run, the Tiyanak will follow by leaping since its legs are different sizes. One of the ways to escape a Tiyanak is by turning your clothes inside out, which will cause the Tiyanak to laugh hard and return to its abode. The Dalaketnon are an evil tribe of the Encantos, human-like nature spirits that are enchantingly beautiful and usually live inside trees. The Dalaketnon specifically like living in Balete trees, with the males having light-colored skin and black hair, while the females have brown bronze skin and brown hair. Both sexes also have leaf-shaped ears, and like all the tribes of the Encanto, they lack the indentation on the upper lip called the philtrum. The Dalaketnon are said to dress in fashionable noble clothing and have an elitism attitude. They especially love inviting attractive human men and women to parties at their mansions. In order to enter their domain though, one must be invited, and then must walk through a Balete tree into another realm. There, the Dalaketnon throw a huge party for their guests, filled with wondrous music and delicious-looking feasts. While the party will be the most amazing party the humans have ever seen, it's actually a trap. Any human that eats the food will be enslaved to the Dalaketnons forever. The moment the food hits their stomach, the illusion will drop. The beautiful mansion will be in ruins, the wondrous music will be the screams of those already enslaved, and the noble-looking Dalaketnon will show their true, hideous, and monstrous forms. When the Dalaketnon find a human that is especially beautiful, they will offer that human black rice, and when the human consumes the black rice, they will be changed into one of the Dalaketnon. The Sirena and the Syokoy are Filipino mermaids and mermen that can be found in both freshwater and saltwater. The Sirena have the upper body of beautiful woman with long curly hair and the lower body of a fish. The Syokoy are similar in that they have the upper body of a man with short hair and sunburnt skin. But depending on the legend, the Syokoy either have the lower body of a fish or have two human legs with a fish tail coming out of their back. Either way, both the Sirena and the Syokoy use a variety of methods to catch their prey. One method will have a merfolk pretending to be drowning, causing a fisherman or a nearby person on land to jump into the water to try and help, only to soon discover that they've been tricked and pulled underwater to their doom. According to legend, the Sirena have beautiful singing voices and will use them to enchant men and young children into jumping into the water. Another trick the merfolk have is their ability to manipulate water. They'll control the water to pull people who are on the beach or near the water's edge right into their waiting hands. While the merfolk have no trouble drowning and devouring humans, they're usually very kind with children and will kidnap them to be raised in their beautiful underwater homes. But the children must first pass a test. A Sirena will ask the child what they like to eat, and if the child says they enjoy meat, fish, or greens with curly tips, then the Sirena will drown them. Since the Sirena have curly hair and are part human and part fish, they do not entertain humans that eat those kinds of food. If the child passes the test, they'll live, and then when the child is all grown up, one of the Sirena or Syokoy will marry them. The same also happens to an adult a Sirena or Syokoy finds attractive. It's also important to note that the merfolk like keeping gold in their homes and will sometimes give it to humans they love, but it will disappear if that human ever tells someone where they got the gold. In some legends, the merfolk have the ability to take on a human form and walk on land. In this case, they can be easily identified as they smell strongly of fish. Another interesting merfolk is the Mambubuno, who has two fish tails for a lower half instead of one. What makes this mermaid interesting is that the humans they capture and bring to their undersea homes won't realize that spending a day with this mermaid means a year will have passed on the surface. When the human gets a chance to return to the surface world, they'll realize that everyone they know has died, and so have no choice but to return to their mermaid spouse. If they don't return, well, the Mambubuno don't forgive when their spouses leave them. They'll hunt them down, kill them, and then move on to another human. The Mangkukulam are Filipino witches that practice black magic. While a Mangkukulam can be either a man or woman, most legends tell of a female Mangkukulam casting horrible curses. Appearance-wise, Mangkukulam look like normal women. They are said to live on the outskirts of cities and villages and usually avoid talking to people. This could perhaps be because one can easily identify a Mangkukulam by looking them in the eye, where they'll see their own reflection upside down in the witch's pupils. Mangkukulams are said to be easily slighted and vindictive. According to legend, all it can take for a witch to curse you is by them glaring hard or pointing their index finger towards you. Curses include rashes, headaches, itching, pain ranging from irritating to unbelievable, and even sudden death. But perhaps the worst type of black magic a Mangkukulam can perform is linking magic. By getting a person's hair or nail clippings, a Mangkukulam can link a person to a doll, insect, or an object like a pot. Anything the Mangkukulam does to the doll, insect, or object will happen to the person connected to it. A Mangkukulam can even transport objects or insects into people's bodies, causing all sorts of internal damage. The only way to rid oneself of these curses is to go to a healer who also knows magic. They will be able to get rid of the curse with numerous methods, but could possibly die trying to remove it if the curse was cast by an incredibly strong Mangkukulam. Ongloc is described as a huge human-like creature with black skin and terrifying teeth. He has the ability to turn children into coconuts, which he stores in his cave until he is ready to devour them. but he only comes after children whose parents have called him using a certain phrase. When a parent is extremely mad at their child and want to get rid of them, they will say this: Ongloc of the mountains, fly in through the door, catch my child and eat him, he is mine no more. This will grant Ongloc permission to take the child and turn them into a coconut. The child's only chance to survive is to pull off a complicated ritual. The child must go to a coconut grove by a river, choose 2 trees across from each other, and dig a hole under both. Then the child has to climb one of the 2 trees that grows the tallest coconut, retrieve the coconut, and then husk it. After that, the child has to punch in one of the coconut's eyes and whisper into it. Ongloc of the mountains, Ongloc, ugly man, I'm a little coconut, catch me if you can. The child then must quickly cut the coconut into 2 and bury each half into the 2 holes he dug earlier. By the time the child does this, Ongloc will be close by, so the child must walk home calmly and definitely not run, for that will alert Ongloc. Ongloc, bound by the child's whisper, will search the coconut grove for the child. If Ongloc passes the invisible line that lies between the 2 trees the child dug under, the buried halves of coconut will shoot out of the ground, snap around Ongloc, and fly back into the tree where Ongloc will be imprisoned for 100 years. As mentioned earlier, it is of the most importance that the child doesn't run, because Ongloc will begin to chase the child in circles, which could accidentally cause the child to cross the invisible line and get imprisoned instead. That's why sometimes when you pass by a coconut grove and you hear knocking, what you're actually hearing is a child trying to escape from their coconut prison. A Malakat is usually a man with the ability to transform into a hairy dog-like creature at night. When in their were-dog form, a Malakat will have sharp fangs and claws, but they only use these to help tear apart their already dead prey. They won't use them to kill their victims. No, their main hunting method is to use their long hair. When a Malakat catches its victim, its hair will stand up and come alive, covering the mouth, nose, and the ears of its victim. The victim will then slowly suffocate until eventually they die from a lack of oxygen. Once their victim is dead, the Malakat will devour its prey and then return to the city or village in its human form in search of its next meal. Markupo is a serpent creature with a red crest on top of its head, a long forked tongue with thornish hairs coming from it, 2 tusks protruding from its mouth, and a long tail that splits into 2 at its end. It's said to live in the mountain regions of the Philippines, where it sings beautifully on clear days. It's when the Markupo comes down from the mountains when problems start to appear. The dangerous serpent has extremely poisonous breath, and anything it breathes on dies, even plants. In fact, if a bird landed on a tree that was poisoned, then that bird would instantly die. While the Markupo's poisonous breath doesn't last long in the air, it lingers in the soil, which could cause an area to be poisoned for years. Santelmo takes the form of a floating ball of fire that can move at great speeds. While commonly the flame's color is orange, there have been reports of it being blue, green, red, and yellow as well. A Santelmo is said to be the lost soul of a man who has died near a large body of water or on a heavily rainy day. Another legend suggests that they are the souls of farmers that were murdered and left in an unmarked grave at a crossroads. Santelmo's fire is said not to burn people or objects, but if one stares into it too long, they will become lost. In fact, most legends involving a Santelmo have it leading someone astray from the path and will keep up this spell until that person dies of exhaustion. They're also known to lead people into swamps where they'll drown themselves. The only way to escape this spell is to turn your clothes inside out, which will cause the Santelmo to inexplainably disappear. In the Tagalog language, Buwaya means crocodile, and before the Spanish arrived in the Philippines, crocodiles were honored with reverence. Crocodiles were referred to as Nuno, meaning grandfather, and were offered tributes of food. In fact, crocodiles were so honored that any that killed one was put to death. According to legend, there are even Buwaya that carry decorated carved coffins made of ironwood and clay on their backs. These types of Buwaya were revered the most because every now and again they would come to a village and choose one of the villagers. The chosen villager would leave everything behind and get in the coffin on the Buwaya's back. Buwaya would then return to the water and carry the villager away, never to be seen again. No one knows exactly what happens to those that are chosen, but the main belief is that the Buwaya are spirits that ferry souls to the land of the dead. Bungisngis is a one-eyed giant with two tusks protruding from his mouth and a large upper lip that when flipped over covers his entire face. He is said to make his home in the deep forests and is always laughing wherever he roams. While he only has one eye in the middle of his forehead and thus shaky sight, he has amazing hearing and a great sense of smell. In the folktale called The Three Friends, the monkey, the dog, and the carabao, Bungisngis comes upon the three friends hunting in the forest. While two of the friends go out looking for game, Carabao, the water buffalo, guards the camp. That's when Bungisngis strikes, eating all the food in the camp. When Carabao tried to stop the giant, Bungisngis used his great strength to pick up the water buffalo and slam him into the ground. This happens a second time when Dog is watching the camp, but during the third time when it's Monkey's turn, Monkey tricks the giant into falling into a pit trap. Monkey then quickly buries Bungisngis alive. Unfortunately, when the other two arrive back, they dig up Bungisngis, wanting to see the body. But Bungisngis is still alive, and once he's free, he kills Dog and breaks Carabao's legs, and then chases Monkey, who ran away. Luckily for Monkey, he once again tricks Bungisngis by making the giant wear a sleeping boa constrictor. When the snake wakes up, it becomes furious with Bungisngis and eats him whole. A caparosa is the Philippine equivalent of a white lady, a ghostly woman who wears a white robe or gown and haunts a certain area because she was murdered or performed suicide and still has unfinished business with the living. The most famous Filipino white lady is the White Lady of Balete Drive. According to the most popular legend, she was once a young woman who got run over by a taxi driver and now haunts drivers that go down Balete Drive. When a driver drives down the road at night, they'll see a young lady dressed in white on the side of the road. If they don't stop and drive past her, she'll appear in the driver's rearview mirror with red eyes and covered in blood. This will terrify the driver and cause them to have a fatal accident. If they do stop, the young lady will instantly disappear, scaring the driver and causing them to quickly drive off. Alans are human-like creatures who have gray, wrinkly skin as tough as caribou hide, giant bat wings that come from their arms, and clawed hands and feet that face backwards. They're known to make their homes in the forests and sleep upside down like bats on tree branches. They have a taste mostly for pigs, but have been known to enjoy the flesh of human men, but not human women. Alans are known to collect human artifacts that they find interesting, as well as gold. While sometimes they can be deadly creatures, there are legends of them adopting children that get lost in the woods. Their main way of reproducing is by collecting aborted fetuses and menstrual blood, and using that to create an Alan child. Lampong is one of the Duwende who lives in the forests as the shepherd and protector of deer. When hunters try to harm the deer under his protection, Lampong will transform himself into a beautiful, majestic white stag with one eye. He will then stand still as the hunters try to shoot him, but every single shot will magically miss. Once all the deer are safe, he turns back into his normal form and walks away into the forest. But if he is not in a forgiving mood, he will use his stag form to trick the hunters to follow him deeper into the forest, never to be seen again. Sigbin are hornless goat-like creatures that have two large ears on top of their head, a whip-like tail, and a love for human corpses. The Sigbin are incredibly fast and are able to run at the same speed both forwards and backwards. Sigbin are attracted to those that are dying and will wait nearby or under houses for days, waiting for their meal to breathe their last breath. During the day, it's said that Sigbin are invisible and that they can only be seen during the evening and night. They also let off a pungent scent of death because of their corpse-filled diet. Another sign that a Sigbin is nearby is the sound of multiple humans clapping. When a Sigbin gets excited, they'll clap their large ears together multiple times, a sign that their prey is about to die. The most dangerous ability of the Sigbin, though, is their ability to hasten death. They can bite a dying person's shadow and swallow the blood of their victim, resulting in death. While the Sigbin are mostly scavenger-like creatures, some of the Aswang do keep them as pets and sometimes send them out to bring back corpses for them to eat. The Sarangay or Sirena is a creature described as having the large body of a man and the head of a horned Filipino water buffalo with a shiny gem in one of its ears. He is said to be the guardian of the rice fields and the beasts of burden, and will punish farmers who abuse them. If farmers offer him tribute, he will protect their lands until that farmer passes. According to legend, if anyone is able to steal the gemstone from his ear, that person will gain magical powers, one of such being amazing strength. Although one should be careful when trying this, as the Sarangay will get angry, causing smoke to come out from his nose and kill the person trying to steal from him. The Kiwig is a shapeshifter that lives on human flesh. While during the day, the Kiwig takes the form of a normal man. At night, he is forced to transform usually into a black pig, with sharp tusks, fiery eyes, and an odd-shaped tail that at its base arches down, and at its end points up. With its sharp tusks, a Kiwig can easily tear into a human body. While the Kiwig is forced to eat human flesh to survive, in its human form, the Kiwig can hold down a job, a family, and even a position in the government. Amalanhigs are either types of Aswang that didn't get a chance to pass on their monstrous curse to a family member before they died, or are people who got murdered but want revenge. Either way, after they're buried, they rise up as a rotting blood drinking corpse. They are said to attack anything living, and once they catch someone, they will tickle them to death as they suck out their blood at the same time. If one is being chased by an Amalanhig, they should run in a zigzag formation or climb a tree because Amalanhigs have stiff limbs. Another method is to cross or enter a body of water since they hate water and won't follow. One can also identify this creature because it will smell heavily of rotting corpses, and because they aren't able to talk and only mimic back what is said to them. The Pugot is a tall, dark-skinned creature that lacks a head and is said to mostly live in trees and highly dense forests. It has the ability to change its size from big to small, as well as the ability to take other shapes, either human, animal, or even a ball of fire. While the Pugot is said to be mostly harmless, it does enjoy scaring people with its headless appearance, and by taking the shape of a hog, running under someone's legs, and then changing their size so they can carry the human on a wild ride. After the Pugot has its fun, it will usually let the human go. You're asking yourself how the Pugot eats. The answer is that it will take snakes and centipedes and shove them down its neck stump. While the Pugot is hardly dangerous, there is a variation called the Pugot Mamu that is extremely maleficent. The Pugot Mamu is also headless, but unlike its nicer cousin, the Pugot Mamu has sharp serrated teeth around its neck stump, which it uses to shred children as it stuffs them down its neck. The Balbal are bird-like creatures with sharp talons and incredibly long and strong tongues. The Balbal are corpse eaters and have a sensitive sense of smell for dead bodies. With that being said, the Balbal are non-confrontational creatures, and so will lie in wait on top of a funeral home or a tree next to a cemetery. If a corpse is ever unattended, a Balbal will swoop down and use its long tongue to grab the body, while at the same time leaving behind a banana leaf that has been made to look like the dead body. The Balbal will then feast on the corpse and laugh as family members bury the decoy banana leaf. Like most corpse eaters, the Balbal have terrible breath, which is a sign one might be nearby. A sure way to dissuade a bawbaw and other corpse eaters is to cover a person's corpse with a concoction of lemongrass, guava leaves, and calamansi juice. Corpse eaters hate the smell of this concoction, and thus they will leave the corpse alone. Burbalangs are human-looking ghouls said to have slit-like pupils and who enjoy eating human corpses. According to legend, when they don't have enough human flesh to feed on, they use an interesting method to hunt for living prey. They'll lay down in an area of long grass and then hold their breath. After a little while, their astral form will fly out of their body and into the sky. The astral form of the Burbalangs is described as a head with feet attached to their ears that act like wings, allowing them to fly. In this astral form, a Burbalang can fly through matter, including someone's body, allowing the ghoul to eat someone from the inside out. The only countermeasure to this is to either find a coconut pearl from within a coconut, or a crysknife coated in lime juice, which is the only weapon that can harm a Burbalang's astral form. The coconut pearl will protect one's home, but will lose its magic if given away, stolen, or if the one who found it dies. Another method to kill a Burbalang is to find its main body somewhere in the long grass. Another interesting trait of the Burbalangs are the moaning sounds they make in their astral form. If the sound sounds like it's going further away from you, then it's a trick. It actually means the Burbalang is somewhere nearby. The Kumakato are a group of 3 robed figures that bring bad omens to a home by knocking on its door. All 3 Kumakato are completely enshrouded in their robes, but one of them is said to be a young female, while the other 2 are large men. According to legend, if a household has someone who is very ill or old, and they receive the knocks from the Kumakato on their door, then that person will die soon. Even if the door isn't opened, the omen of the Kumakato always comes true. The Tik-Tik are bird-like creatures with long, sharp tongues that are said to be the pets of the Aswangs. Also known as the Wak-Wak or the Kik-Kik, the Tik-Tik birds are used by the Aswang as scouts to find prey. Owls, bats, or horrifying-looking black birds are their usual descriptions. It's said that if you ever hear a Tik-Tik, Wak-Wak, or Kik-Kik sound coming from the sky, then that means that an Aswang and its bird servant is somewhere nearby. According to legend, a Tik-Tik's favorite food is the flesh and organs of a newborn child. Its main hunting method is to lead its Aswang master to a house full of prey, and then while the Aswang deals with the adults, the Tik-Tik will extend its tongue and insert it into the newborn's anus and suck out its entrails. Among the creatures from the Philippines, there are the Gigante, enormous creatures that are compared to the European giants. One group of these Gigante are the Mantiu, 30-foot-tall giants who enjoy whistling in fields and against trees. While usually they are extremely peaceful and harmless, one should never whistle near a Mantiu. A Mantiu will become offended, grab the person who is whistling in its presence, and then drop them off on top of the tallest coconut tree, without any way down. The tiburones were giant flying sharks or fish with rock-crushing, saw-like teeth and beautiful scales with thick flesh underneath. They appeared in the Ibalon epic, where the epic's central figure fought with them and eventually vanquished each and every single one. And that's a wrap for today's adventure, fellow myth seekers. We hope you enjoyed our video today on the mythical creatures from the Philippines. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. And with that, we'll see you next time on Wild Mythology.